Assalamu alaikum everyone, or hello everyone, whatever works. So I'm Safwan Shah. I'm your moderator for this panel today. And this is a panel which is entitled Fintech, the New Silicon, with a question mark at the end of it. Do you know that? Are you here for that panel? Okay. Okay. Many of you are familiar faces, but I'm actually very proud and pleased to have these three amazing individuals on this panel. I know them, I know at least two of them for many, many years, and Zia I've come to know a little better in the last few conversations. One of our panelists, which is Naveed Anwar, he had a personal situation and he couldn't join, and we are all praying for that situation to get resolved. So the way we're going to do this is we have about 45 minutes. I'll take maybe a minute to get everything started. And each one of you will be required to introduce yourself. If you do not do a good job, I will correct you. It's okay, right? It's in all fairness. So I will do that. Everyone who has been in panels or attended panels, you all know that panels suck. And the reason they suck is that there are too many people and too few minutes and so on and so forth. So we will try to defy that. Okay? You'll help me in that? Okay. So we are here for them, and they are here for the three of you. So in that spirit, let me start with you, Zia. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello?
Early morning it was described as the way Beyonce goes closer to a microphone. So you've got to do the Beyonce.
Hello everyone, I'm Zia. I'll start with an analogy just to explain what we do and why we do that at Innovi. So I'll go back to the history of cars. We all know 100 years ago when Henry Ford...
Zia, can you introduce yourself?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
That's a good analogy. Okay. So when Henry Ford was building cars 100 years ago, started with Model T, for example, and that was more for a personalized experience. And then later on, same thing was used as derivatives for vans and pickup trucks and buses. So it was quite a bit of inspiration for me. I started my career at Motorola in 2000, and I was fortunate to be mentored by some of the pioneers of cellular design, Thomas Hall and Dr. Weber. For 12 years, I designed different mobile devices, including the Razr phone, which we sold 300 million units back in 2004, 2005. And later on, I designed many more devices for Verizon, AT&T, the Droid phones. I left and came to Silicon Valley and worked for NVIDIA for 2 years, designed many more devices over there. So at this point, I was convinced that this is more of a personalized device, personalized phone, and then it has to be rebuilt for derivative markets. So basically going down to the analogy of Model T, which was more for sedan, personal use, and then it has to be rebuilt for different verticals. So I was completely sold on that, left the corporate, and we started Innovi, where in comparing with the mobile devices, now we have built up the mobile platform for the payment industry. And we have brought up many more technologies into the mobile platform to really give the best customer experience in retail and hospitality. And we developed the first pocketable all-in-one payment phone with all payment systems and many more technologies in that. And here we are talking about mobile checkout.
Amir.
Thank you. First of all, I'm very impressed by the open volunteers that put together this forum every year. There's a lot of effort that goes into it, and I just think about the dedication that they have. And I want to thank our moderator, Safwan. I think he'll keep the whole event fun, so that's good. As far as I'm concerned, I will call myself a serial entrepreneur. This is my 4th company that I am running. It's called I2C. And you won't hear our name because we don't do end-user products. But the companies that roll out end-user products, whether it's a card or mobile payments, they need systems to build those. They don't really have most of them don't have their own systems. So our company is a cloud-based service provider to people wanting to roll out financial services solutions to consumers. And Safwan's company is also a client, so that gives you some idea. And look forward to answering your questions.
I will channel my inner Beyonce.
Yeah, please do that.
So my name is Junaid. Razzak. Thank you, Safwan, for having me on this panel. I work for PayPal. I stumbled on Fintech purely by accident. I came to the Valley in '95. Very typical, engineering career. Started somewhere in NED, where we remember Safwan as our senior. Stories can be told afterwards. The idea was, start a career here, and I landed with Netscape. Happened to be working on the very first browser platform that was built by Netscape. Some of you may remember that. Then I got acquired by AOL. I worked for Sun Microsystem for a little bit, and I worked for a social network called Bebo. And then was attending a conference just like this, ran into a guy named Osama Badir, and he was like, hey, you need to come work for PayPal. And that's how I landed with Fintech. Fintech is the new silicon. I think it's an amazing industry, and being in the Valley, I think a lot of people don't realize how cool it is. At the surface, maybe boring, but I think it's about money. And I'm sure all of you care about money, so we'll probably talk about money and what does it take to move money for all people, all segments.
Well, thank you very much. So this is not the way I wanted to start. So we'll have to restart. So the problem here is that none of us know who you are. Who cares about your company? We'll get to that. So I really wanted everyone to first meet these individuals, because the reason we put these panels together is in part to educate, in part to share, in part to inspire, and for me, in many parts to inspire somebody here to become one of them or somebody else. So I really thought it would be great to, for the audience to know you. And so Zia, that's why I apologize I interrupted you, because who are you? Are you an engineer? Are you a...
Engineer.
An engineer. And why are you in Fintech?
More for mobility reasons. Started all my career with mobile, and then, as I said, I saw the great opportunity.
And when you say opportunity, you followed the money, you followed something.
I followed the mobility part of it.
Okay.
Because mobility was so fascinating when we built Razor phones and stuff back in the days. It was the best experience.
So that was at Motorola?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So after it was more matured in the last 10 years, I was convinced that it has to move different walks of life and be rebuilt for the right experience.
And you think there is a potential of a transformation at the endpoint, at the payment endpoint?
Oh, absolutely.
Everything will be done on the phone, including payments?
Absolutely. And the full between the associate to customer, associate to employee. We'll talk a little later, but some amazing things working with Walmart currently.
Cool. So the reason I wanted to kind of make this interruption, Zia here, it runs a company called Innowi, N-N-O-I-N-N-O-W-I, something with innovation and wireless, obviously. And you are venture-backed.
Yes.
And you got a lot of money.
That was the toughest part, being the first venture, but I think Open helped quite a bit, a lot of angel investing initially. So we're doing pretty okay.
Okay. And you're a hardware company.
It's more of an experience because...
The experience means nothing.
Well, the customer experience.
Is Apple an experience company?
It is an experience.
But in the end, you build the hardware or no?
We build the hardware and applications, algorithms, all for the best experience to the customer.
Right. I just thought it was interesting, right? The words we use now. I'm not interrupting you, I'm just trying to point out something. It's an experience company. Like I see somebody here that used to be at Cisco, like Cisco is a human network. So you know what I mean? It's amazing. So this is the kind of stuff that, thank you. The other gentleman sitting in the middle is Amir Wain, and he said he's a serial entrepreneur. I'm not really sure how I would describe him. He did that. He's been building this amazing company, which he pointed out that my company also uses, which moves. And I want to just for you to give me a number. How many dollars did you move in the last quarter in America?
About 13 billion.
In one quarter, this company moved $13 billion. So when we say fintech is the new silicon, I think it's important to kind of dig deeper. And I think you're here to see that perspective from these individuals. You're fortunate to have these three here. So I'm going to go in these sort of deeper digressions, if you don't mind. And how much money did PayPal move?
Somewhere around $567 billion in the last quarter.
Yeah. So this gentleman here, he's in an experience company, which hardware is central to that experience, software is also central. Amir, you are an entrepreneur, right? You've never really worked for anyone. Were you junior engineer, Amir Wain at IBM at ever in your life?
No. I started my career at IHOP. And, I quickly moved to Burger King, so I had a progression. And then while I was in college, I worked for a bank's back office. So in the evening, I would go in and run the reports and so on. But after college, I've never really worked for anyone, and I started my first company, which is still running. And the other thing, I guess, which is different is none of the 4 companies that I've founded are VC funded. And I'm not saying that VC funding is a bad thing, but it's just that I've not gone that route. It's a very different culture when you are funded by the VC firms, and it's very different when it's bootstrapped. So my personal experience is more from the bootstrap side, whatever that means.
So now we've got one, but let's get the actors together, right? This is the stage you're seeing an individual who's got a hardware company backed by angels, backed by VCs, right? An experience hardware, software platform company. And we'll get to Walmart in a moment. The guy in the middle, Amir Wain, has 100% or whatever. You probably have most of the ownership of the company, and there must be amazing stories of and challenges to put together. At least I know you for 20 years. So for 20 years you've been doing this, and perhaps more. A payments company in a regulated industry, and has taken no money from anyone. Impressive, right? And you also, I know for a long time, maybe longer than most of these two. How would you describe your role in PayPal? Because I think you're an entrepreneur at heart.
Try to. I think innovation happens in big companies too. It's a myth that it doesn't. It just doesn't move fast enough.
So each individual here, one is a venture-backed company, a self-ignited, multi-year, highly successful, profitable company, and someone working with PayPal, which I think is the second largest company in payments, right? With Ant Financial being the largest. So the first question I would ask you at this point, and we're about maybe 10, 12 minutes into this panel, what is the most interesting thing you've done in the last 60, 90 days? This is related to your work, by the way.
Sure. Well, actually for us, it's a great story. We deployed Checkout Dem, which is here, a payment platform into Walmart in the last 4 or 5 months, and it's been crazy ride, really manufacturing the devices, doing all the payment integration with all your gateways and stuff, and then taking all the bugs out. So that's been fascinating. The team here and in Lahore really did an amazing job to make this thing happen.
So when you say a checkout, I mean, I don't know how much you can describe, but this is like a new POS, or?
This is a mobile platform. Basically, you don't need the 10 pieces counter. I think the stores, the retailers are transforming. So it will be all mobile inside. And we are currently working with literally a new ecosystem in retail with Walmart, where they're changing a lot of things, that how associate basically interact with customers.
So associates will, Walmart calls their employees associates. So would associates be carrying it in their pocket?
Yes, yes. And there are more derivative devices will be going in Walmart, where associate to associate, like literally employer, like CEO to associate, and then of course customer is the center of it. Will be all through mobile, and
No checkout?
no checkout line basically. Yeah. And then a lot of customer learning when we talk about Safwan, about the AI and all of that. This is the platform where we are co-developing stuff on software and algorithms, that indoor navigation, some of those interesting stuff really happening on a platform like this.
I guess working with Walmart is as exciting as it gets. Amir, what have you done in the last 120 days? And this is about work again, just to reiterate.
Back to intros for a minute. I know you're a celebrity, but you are an integral part of the discussion. So I guess a little bit about yourself and your success.
I'm Safwan Shah. I'm by training an engineer, and I work for lower income people who work on hourly wages, clock in, clock out. And I work for them by going to their employers and convincing them that you have to treat your employees better. That's what I do.
So that's there too. So I guess, you know, when I think about it, it's kind of hard to think of one big thing that we are doing, because I really, I am the CEO of the company, so my focus is not on one particular area as such. And we use a balanced scorecard framework, and you have to think about customer viewpoint, you have to think about the financial viewpoint, you have to think about, you know, your core competence and so on. So it's very important that you have a more holistic approach. Another thing is that we enable great things such as the PayActiv, you know, product. We don't really do anything which I can say, well, you know, this, but I can name many companies which are using our system. Brex is another company in Fintech which is getting a lot of popularity these days. They run off our platform. Petal is a credit card company out of New York. These guys are all doing new things. They are making financial services available to people that it was not available to. So to be an enabler of all of that, I think is really exciting. And there's another project we're working on which is extremely interesting. It's with the federal government, and it's a government disbursement of benefits. And then you have to deal with people who are homeless. So, you know, KYC, know your customer, is an important aspect, and for many things you know people's addresses and so on. So many of these guys are homeless. Some of them are moving from place to place, and dealing with that demographic is very rewarding when you can do something nice for them. So that's one project that comes to my mind that we are very proud of.
That is impressive. So in this room, how would somebody have touched an I2C system? How could they have touched your system? What would be a product that they would have experienced?
I think if you use a credit card, if you use a bank debit card, prepaid card, some sort of mobile payment, we are not the only company that does this, but you may be surprised that only 4 or 5 banks have their own system. Even PayPal uses an external system for their debit card. So almost, you know, the 8,000 other banks besides the top 5 use a company like ours. And in the US, I would say there are probably altogether 5 to 6 providers of this service.
What is the service?
I'm sorry?
What is the service?
So if you have a credit card and you go swipe it somewhere, a the system has to know, do you have enough credit limit? Does the transaction match your spend behavior? Then if you have alerts set to send you an alert, when you go on your mobile app to look at the activity, if you want to report a dispute, call the phone system. All of those things that a bank sort of offers to you as services around their product. It's not bank's technology. It's all white label. So it's bank, City National Bank. They're using our system. So while you're using a City National credit card, it actually could be going through the I2C system. And it's a cloud-based service, so it's, think of Amazon Web Services, but for a specific purpose, to offer financial services.
How do you talk about PayPal?
All right, so the most interesting thing, I could say that, hey, we integrated with Instagram, so if you're a social feed, you want to buy something, one-click buy, but, that's cool, but I think the most impactful thing, Safwan, that I would say that I'm actually personally very proud of is that we formed a team and then we took 1,000 merchants that are very small and medium-sized businesses where we identified that their business was actually declining. And we tried to help them. And these are the people that are competing with the Amazons of the world, right? They don't have a really good understanding of payment systems. They really don't know what to do. They have a brick and mortar store, they have a shop on Shopify, maybe on Magento, and their business is just declining and they don't know why. So what we did was, and they use PayPal, so they are our existing customers. So we did analysis, right? And what we did was we understood their patterns of over the last 3 years and looked at their website, checked out their SEO, search engine optimization, their marketing strategy, and actually went to them and said, we think we can actually help grow your business, right? Put you back on track through certain technology solutions, right? Some of them are PayPal, some of them are not PayPal necessarily, right? In the spirit of helping the middle class, right? Get back and compete. And I think in the 90 days, I can say that was certainly about 3% growth in, I think, more than 20% of the merchants that we touched. So we're getting them back on track, and there's a lot of learnings that we'll probably take and incorporate that into our product offering. Of course, that's the eventual impact. But I'm very happy about that, and then I learned what's actually happening in the country right now. We do have a situation there that if you go in Midwest, there are businesses, and Safwan, I think what you're doing is interesting. Yeah, a lot of people don't have cash flow. Like these are businesses that are, they're about 1 million to 2 million in TPV, right? Payment volume, going through their systems, they're selling stuff, but they don't even have $1,000 in their bank account. Not even $1,000, and they're running $1 million businesses. So that's where I feel like the most impact that I have had in 90 days. But Instagram is cool too. You can check out PayPal on Instagram, one click.
So, do you guys, and we can go in any order, do you still think that fintech is a segment where you could still launch a company? Given that, for everyone's benefit, in 2018, about $100 billion were invested in fintech, and more than 40 billion were invested in the US alone. And of course, it's a global canvas now with so many companies coming out in England and in every part of the world. You must have seen Paytm in India. These are companies that have raised $4, $5, $6 billion to grow the markets. Because like the phone companies, they are trying to capture consumers' imagination and build a brand. Do you think that there is still an opportunity to get into this fintech space with creative ideas? Because it's a landscape that is, it's a land grab. And if you had $100,000, what would you do? You have 30 seconds to answer.
So, I think there's always opportunity. Even you think about the food industry, there is opportunity, right? So there's always opportunity. You have to define what you need to do in fintech. You may have the technology, but customer acquisition is an extremely, extremely difficult and expensive thing. even if you do it through social media, it's not cheap. And so, you have to be careful, I think, before thinking about your solution, you have to think through how are you going to acquire the customers. That would be one recommendation I would have. Fintech, is a broad term. Financial technology. Financial services is one industry that has used technology for the longest time, and they're a big customer. So there's nothing new in fintech. Fintech has been there for a long time. What's happening is some of the new technologies are enabling new use cases, new user experiences. And the bigger players always struggle to change because of inertia, because they have to cannibalize their own business. That creates opportunities for other players, and the big players know that let them do the experimentation, whoever is successful will go and buy them. So there is definitely opportunity, but you have to think through as to what problem you're solving, how are you going to do customer acquisition, and why would your product be better? Banks, branches used to be their biggest asset. Some of the new technology has made the branches less relevant. But does that mean trust and brand and some of the compliance-related assets that they have are not important? They're very important. But you can pick a small piece and try to innovate, and then someone could come in and pick that piece from you, and that could be a good exit point.
Yeah, I think it's quite true what Amir you said. It's about the new experiences, and within mobile, when I see everything transforming, just look at the vertical like restaurant industry, for example. Huge outdoor, huge, stadiums, arenas. The whole airline industry actually is almost due for a mobile upgrade, I would call it. I mean, all of these systems before 9/11, after 9/11, this was all stagnated and no more infrastructure changes. I was closely working with American Airlines, and all of this, they have cash now. It has to move through to the mobile platforms and mobile experiences. Like, we boarded actually 2 American Airlines planes with this device. So this device can do everything at the airport, for example. So as you said, really, focus on it and build the use case. And I would say, get 5 people in Lahore. 100K, what you were asking, it's easy. It's a greenfield right now in Pakistan. Comparing from China and India, actually, I've been going to China since 2000, and started low. Now it's like 3,000 to 4,000 an engineer. In Pakistan, in Lahore, we're getting up $1,000. Really good, fresh, few years experienced engineers spend 5,000 to 6,000 and get your ideas locked, and you gotta run with it. So I agree with you. There are more, for what I see, more mobile experiences, and I think 100,000 is pretty decent to start.
You can give yourself a big salary.
So if I may add one thing, just be very clear. Just because you're doing a project in fintech, you have no higher probability of success. I can guarantee you. It's not like, okay, no matter what I do in fintech, I'm going to be successful. I can tell you, every challenge that you have in any other sector exists in fintech. So don't take fintech as like, I'm in fintech, I'll be successful. Just be careful about that.
Yeah, but Amir, you think about some companies, right? There's been phenomenal success in the last 5 years now. I don't want to talk only about PayPal properties, but who here uses Venmo, right? 25 million people, right, in US are using Venmo. It's a P2P service, it's free. It's fintech, it came from nowhere, right? And it's actually making the old PayPal look like, a kid. So
it still doesn't make money. Venmo makes no money. Venmo wasn't as big till PayPal, they needed money to be supported. And that's the piece, like someone built a piece that a larger enterprise has a use for. Venmo by itself is not a viable business. It really isn't today. They may start charging fees, which will change things. But they still don't make money.
Debatable.
No, they don't.
I don't think they have to make money. May I interject? They were bought for $29 million by Braintree. Is that correct?
It was part of Braintree acquisition. No, but your point is
But they were bought for
yeah,
$29 million by Braintree, and Braintree was bought for $800 million by PayPal.
something like that. I think it's
And,
Braintree's worth $20 million.
Instagram was bought for $1 billion by Facebook. Facebook exists because they have WhatsApp and Instagram. Facebook wouldn't exist otherwise. So these companies are a beautiful thing. And that is why for $100,000 you can make a difference. And Lahore would be ideal for that. And so I just want to throw this into the...
No, I disagree. Look, Venmo is no big engineering feat.
We could do it in our sleep,
No,
but they did it.
Venmo is no engineering feat. You have to understand it's not engineering. Venmo, customer acquisition, you can't do that in 100,000 out of Lahore. Venmo, if it's any special logic, if it's technology that has a pattern, tell me. It's as basic as it gets.
So I'll take, okay, so let's not talk about Venmo. How about having in Pakistan WhatsApp P2P payment? Like, I think, can we do that at $100,000? That would be amazing. I'm sure.
I'm an eternal optimist, so I think everything should be done and can be done and must be done. But I have another question. How many minutes do I have? 10. 4. Can we go 5? There's nothing after this. And people want to leave, they can leave. So what about Pakistan's gateway? We hear this constantly, that Pakistan needs a payment gateway. Pakistan would do, the freelancers over there cannot get the payments that they need. There's a lot of friction. So I want to somehow pose this question to the three of you and whoever is an expert in it. A, what does it mean when people say Pakistan needs a payment gateway? And second question, what can you do about it? And we have 5 minutes to finish on that.
Okay, so I think payment gateway, getting paid for your services abroad is not an issue. There are many solutions available for it. E-commerce in the domestic market, you need a method to get paid. And that's something that the gateway can help with. So it will be connected to all the banks, it will be connected to EasyPaisa, all the other mobile payments. And I as a merchant can then add a pay button on my site, and that would then take the request to the gateway, and gateway will go to the payment issuer and make the e-commerce happen. Right now it's cash on.
So if I'm a shoemaker, mochi, in Swat, I could open a store right now and start accepting payments in credit card?
Selling where?
To America.
That you can.
That's all.
Yeah, you don't need local gateway for that at all.
I mean, the question, I think, is that how do you allow thousands of those mochis and thousands of those craft people, right? It's not happening in Pakistan today, right? And I think there are limitations. I mean, there is one link. I think, people very well, that there's a network, you can move money around, but there isn't a platform that allows, my son to go in and build an app, right, and say, okay, I'm going to have a wallet, right? So I think there's a lot of that is not happening. I don't know why, is it government policies or whatever, but here, anybody can start, right, to build, right, a mobile wallet tomorrow, whether they may not be successful, right? We don't have Shopify or Magento available for that mochi to go in and two-click beautiful website already, right? It's not there today, right?
What Alibaba did for China, or some companies did in India, nobody's done in Pakistan.
Nobody's done that, and you tie that. I think there are limitations underneath that we have now built in Pakistan, right? So those rails do not exist, or if they exist, they're only understood by, I don't know, like 0.1% of the people, right? And same thing goes for mobile point of sale, right? Only 30,000 point of sale devices, according to one stat that I think Safwan you shared with me, right? So we don't have the ubiquity by any form. So there's a lot of work that needs to get done to build gateways, layers on top of it, applications that can build on top of it to foster. But I think more than anything else, I think you need e-commerce platforms, right? We don't have those. There are no billion-dollar companies coming out of Pakistan that are doing e-commerce. If we solve for that, I think the downstream problem of gateway will get solved. That's my opinion.
What about Simpson? Simpson, like
Finca, yeah.
Yeah. We have gateways now.
No, they are mobile.
So the panel is done, now we're going to Q&A.
Close
Actually, this is very good. We've gone into Q&A naturally.
They are a closed loop payment system, right? So you put money in Simpson, you can use it at Simpson merchants.
The Simpson owner is sitting here.
it's limited.
Board member or owner, right?
And not owner, not really. Yeah, I'm on the board of. So they're expanding. I mean, the point that you're making is that how could you enable? So their vision is that the merchant is sitting in Spot and you can order from them and pay them by a citizen. But that needs the networking still going on. But the point, I think, the bigger point that you were trying to make, I think, which is the payments issue around Pakistan, is that there's a big push for a lot of folks like in Pakistan who are doing offshore work. How do they get paid from people in America?
Yeah.
That is the big issue.
So you work in New Karachi, you're a Java developer, you're an Adobe programmer or whatever, and you want to receive $1,000 directly. How would you receive it?
So our client does that, and they do billions of dollars every quarter. And Pakistan is one of their big markets. The company is called Payoneer. What they will do is they will give you a card, and money gets deposited onto your card as soon as you finish.
But why do they have to give you a card, I think is the question.
Because to access the funds. Because the banking system, they've also worked with local banks, and not everyone wants a bank. But those solutions, they are in India, they're in Russia, they're all over the world, and they are one of the fastest growing fintechs. Very simple solution, instantaneous. If you wire money to someone in Pakistan, the bank's going to charge them $30 to receive the wire, then they'll hold the foreign currency for a certain number of days and so on. Here you say project complete, instantaneously your balance on the card goes up. It's a prepaid card.
And where can I use that card? So it's like
Any ATM, any ATM. It's a
Any
Visa
ATM.
and Visa MasterCard. So you can walk up to all ATMs in Pakistan have Visa MasterCard connectivity. So you go and you take local rupees. You can go to a merchant. You can buy stuff online in the US using that card also.
Or you can use Zoom.com, right? And within a minute, the money will be in your account. It'll be 3 to 4% charge, right?